Hey, good morning, everyone. Suppose we should get started. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes,
Great.
Hillary.
Hey, good morning. Um,
That's right. And you might show me that it is.
all right. A few things on the agenda, and I'm not sure if you were quite done yet, Gabriel, adding to the agenda. But
I think important points are already there.
all
So,
right, why don't you jump into the core?
okay, sure. Yeah, so probably like maybe somewhere between probably a month ago, there was a community user that kind of reported a few crashes on the AMF based on the specific input that the user was providing. So I kind of like replicate most of the issues and I kind of gave the user an image that I published on my own account, Docker Hub, so for the user to test to see whether there is still kind of issues. Out of the 12 issues reported by the user, I think I get nine got solved, but three were still remaining. So based on that feedback, basically I start kind of preparing some multiple improvements, especially on the NAS and the NGAP for now to validate a few things. And right now we have open a PR for the AMF, so such that we can start kind of addressing all these different issues. Um, so it seems like most of them are already resolved based on the latest PR that needs to be kind of merged, hopefully soon. That's one of the things. The other thing is as part of the UPF itself, there are a while ago, probably like a year or 2 years ago, Suresh added a support in the Helm charts for the DPDK. Before that, there was just some instructions, separate instructions, but that kind of got incorporated into the base UPF Helm charts. So to that kind of extent, what we did multiple improvements, at least from the base images that were kind of required. They depended, these were for like a SROB device plugin and some SROB related stuff. So we made multiple improvements on that. So we have the new images ready. So I just need to release running a few more kind of tests. Well, not necessarily tests. I'm waiting for this AMF also to update so we can release a full Helm charts for the core. The original image, the Ether CNI image, originally was like at almost more than 200 megs. Now it's just in around like 90 megs when somebody is interested in deploying the UPF in the PDK mode from performance perspective. So that got improved. The other task that we are kind of working on, I see that Suresh is here. Probably you want Suresh to kind of explain what you have been doing.
Yeah, Gabriel. Yeah,
Go
sure.
ahead.
Uh, on the IMS front, I completed the voice call establishment testing using the soft phones. I'm able to establish the calls between the two UEs, and most of these IMS components I made it as a Dockerized components, whatever needed. So I am now in the process of deploying these with the real UEs and test the same solution. So I just completed deploying the on the another setup. So I will proceed to test with the smartphone as the real UEs, and I will update. Hopefully, I
Yeah.
don't see much issues with respect to the IMS front since already the flow is tested. So we have to just enable the IMS one in the.
Yeah, this is some work that the iOS MCM team in India indicated that they were kind of preparing several PRs for adding a few features to the SD core, and one of those things is the IMS support on the core. So out of those two PRs that the IMS team opened for the SMF and PCF, Suresh is using that as a reference to kind of have an enable the SD core to kind of provide support for IMS based calls. Um, yeah, so that's kind of like the most relevant or important part. We have done a lot of more stuff in the core, but it's more like smaller pieces. Then on the on-ramp side, that's the other thing that especially with the last 2 3 weeks, we spend a good amount of time to kind of enable several capabilities because of different reasons. One, the most relevant one that basically simplify a lot of the workflow process is the consolidation of on-ramp into a single repository. So right now, before there was the working model using, Git submodules. It was convenient, especially, well, that working process is convenient when there are multiple pieces evolving on their own pace. But in this case, in general, we use just OnRamp as a single monolithic repository. So it was kind of, when making an update on the 5GC, was a headache to go to OnRamp, sync up that submodule and things like that. So now it's things simpler, especially from the testing perspective, because when we make any PR, when we try to make a merge any PR on ramp itself, the GitHub actions automatically run there, and we can catch any issue right away. And this happened, basically was kind of like a headache for me, like a couple of weeks ago, because I was kind of trying to move to a newer Kubernetes version, and everything was working fine on my internal deployment. But when I was kind of syncing up the Kubernetes submodule into the on-ramp, then suddenly on-ramp, the GitHub action, the quick start was failing. Later on, and realized that basically there was some replacement text on the action based on assumptions that how the Kubernetes repository should look like. And that's basically what is, it was kind of very challenging to debug that kind of issues, having this submodule component. So now it's a single repository. It's easier to kind of move things faster. And because of that, we have been doing a lot of kind of more improvements. One of those is we enable the capability to run a on-ramp behind proxies. And this is basically because of some work that we were doing with the FlexRun team internally. And we wanted for them to test SD Core along with the FlexRun solution, but they were deploying their solution behind a proxy, and that was kind of a complete headache to start doing a lot of manual work. So it was kind of just easy to enable the proxy for on-ramp, and everything was pretty simpler for them to kind of do the whole deployment.
And
And also,
did that turn out to be pretty straightforward?
eh,
I mean, I remember it being tricky. Uh,
yeah, so let's say from the complexity side, I would say like a half, 5 out of 10 probably. But after there the two there are three key pieces from the that side. One is APT packages, the other one was Kubernetes, and the other one was Docker. So Docker, it was pretty straightforward because that's something that I used to do before when I had my machines behind the proxy. The APT and environment variables, that was kind of also pretty straightforward. The kind of the new thing or challenging part for me because was the Kubernetes side, because I hadn't deployed Kubernetes behind a proxy, but everything is now working as expected. And on top of that, when working all of these, we start kind of checking finding a few more bugs that we can start addressing. And the other thing that it was partially based on the work that we are doing right now, and also partially with the work that we were doing with the FlexRAM team, which is this kind of air gap capability. So for the case of the FlexRAM team, they were interested in having, let's say, deploy Ether and FlexRAM in a single machine, having that deploy and then move that machine into a demo room where there is no, or an exhibition room where there was no internet access, right? So, and at that point, as soon as you try to kind of start deploying or trying to redeploy something using on-ramp, the first thing that was doing is trying to kind of go to the internet and update the cache, right? I think it's not called, APT cache. I think it's called cache update or update cache, something like that. But it's for the APT packages. So that was kind of one of the reasons that we are interested in adding this air gap capability. So we start testing that, adding a few improvements on that side. And because of that, more things have been kind of coming up, and we are continuously kind of making additional improvements. So this morning go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, does air gap become an option or
No, everything is an option. Yeah, proxy is an option.
so it wouldn't be transparent that it would work either way. You have to say, I want to do an air gap deployment.
So by default, it is disabled, right? So it's like
Got
any
it.
user. But if you go into bar's main file, you're going to see on the top of the file, basically proxy, which is disabled by default, and an air gap, which is disabled by default,
Got it.
right? So if somebody's interested in using it, they can start kind of basically adding those capabilities. And of course, all these changes that are facing the user, they have the documentation updated as well on the Aether docs. Yeah, but there are a lot of stuff that we have been doing under the hood that basically has no facing to the user. So, but lots of improvements as well there.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yeah, go on. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, no problem. I think those are kind of the highest level because again, there's lots of stuff, lots of activity that we have been doing on these two fronts. I don't think there's anything else. I don't know, Suresh, you have anything else on that side? Anything that I miss? I forgot.
No, Gabriel, I think you covered pretty much.
Okay. Yeah, just one thing that I'm kind of working right now regarding the on-ramp is trying to add, at the moment, the quick start has the option to select a specific Ubuntu version. Since we are kind of checking a few more things to improve, for example, the APT, we are trying to kind of make sure that basically it gets installed for Kubernetes support. It gets installed from APT, the Python Kubernetes support. So we are trying to see if we can, instead of running for a single OS or a single Ubuntu version, we're trying to see kind of doing in the matrix part, so we can actually whatever Ubuntu versions we said we support, basically run that GitHub action for all those versions all the time. So instead of just doing a single one, so we can make sure that we can catch all these little differences between the different versions of OS, because there are specifically from the package side, there are some packages that are continuously added into the Ubuntu through their APT group. So they may exist on the latest version or the version that we're using, but they might not exist on the previous version. So in our case, I think officially we're supporting Ubuntu 22 and Ubuntu 24. So primarily is to catch the difference between these two Ubuntu versions.
Sounds useful. All right, anyone else have anything on the first couple of bullets or anything else? SD-RAN, I don't see any SD-RAN folks on. All right, so I apologize for having to miss the last call. I know that these two patches contributions were discussed at least to some extent, but nothing concluded. I think we want to probably pick up that discussion. Is there a summary someone could give of where things stand?
Yeah, so I can give a kind of like what was the interest overall, but probably Edwin can go and give a brief summary
Good.
of the presentation. So there were two kind of questions that got no answer, and that's why we wanted to continue for this week. So there is an interest from Forceway, a company, to provide to contribute with NTN base code. It's about like probably around like 15,000 lines of code related to NTN, primarily for the SMF component. And the question was that most of the code has been AI generated. And the question was whether the community is open to accept AI generated code. I think that was kind of the primary question. I don't, and that was whether there is a consensus. Go ahead.
If I can add a little bit there. So the total contribution is from usage accounting, and the NTN is around 15,000 lines. And I think that NTN is maybe maximum 1,000 lines, because the changes are fairly small. It's mainly a couple of timers and managing RAT type. Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification. Yeah, because last time after the meeting, I kept thinking, because at the beginning of the presentation, it was about just a few timers, and said how can adding a few timers kind of generates like 15,000 lines of code. So that's what I was kind of curious. Thanks for clarifying that now.
Yeah, I think that's important just for no other reason than in that it's probably helpful to split these two contributions. The NTN contribution seems to me, and I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks, a pretty straightforward. That would be nice to have, and it seems to be a modest set of patches. Is it? I have not
Yeah,
looked at
the
it.
actual NTN part is basically nothing. It's sort of the timers that should be there anyhow. So, and then we have some special ret type handling, but that's, yeah, very small.
Yeah. Yeah, so
And
I think
the defaults are for terrestrial networks. So,
good.
yeah,
Good. Yeah, that one seems pretty straightforward. Um, out of curiosity, do you have a deployment or a use case in particular that you're working with, or is this more just a general?
No, we, of course, we are a company in the SATCOM sector, satellite communication, and I've been working in that area for like 20 years. And yeah, when we saw that 5G NTN is coming, we started taking notice and started some study project. And since like 1.5 years, we have been having an implementation project where we are now in sort of the, yeah, we first started with like architecture phase, and then we're now in the implementation. So we will continue supporting, what we are doing for a number of years to come. So this will be one of our main products
That's nice.
system for terrestrial, non-terrestrial networks.
So,
So we will.
sorry. So this is an easily self-contained pull request on the NTN improvements.
Yeah, or maybe a couple because it's
Yeah.
different timers in different branches. So yeah, we will see how we do it best. Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. Is there any discussion on that particular contribution that folks would like to
Uh,
pursue further?
the only question there is the view of the either project on AI generated code. I know that some sort of open source projects are very much against it, but
So this also
well,
this is included
yeah,
AI generated then. Okay.
yes.
Yeah. Well, we've not really crossed that bridge, so I guess yeah. So what is the sentiment on that from others that were on the call or have since thought about it?
Yeah, so what I kind of mentioned from last meeting as well. I mean, I don't think there is any issue, at least from my side, as long as the developers opening the PR understand what the code does, right? So before opening the PR, because if it's not fully understood by the developer, it's going to be kind of a little bit more challenging. Is the whole responsibility falls into the reviewer to make sure that everything is working as expected. So that would be kind of the only thing. So as long as I'm kind of actually in favor because it helps a lot. At least from the SD core perspective, we have configured all the repositories for Copilot to automatically evaluate, run a first check on everything because it's useful, especially to kind of improve our time. Keeping in mind that there's lots of stuff to do. So it's very useful. Again, as long as the code, the developer understands what is there, yeah. So it's not the full load only on the or responsibility only on the reviewer side.
Yeah, I would say that there is a good understanding of what it's doing, and we have been running lots of end-to-end tests. And
Yes. Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
we
So
have quite a lot of unit testing, although that's also AI generated, sort of
Yeah.
even more than the actual production code.
So I
right.
don't know if you've looked at the tests that we're now doing. We just recently shifted from a set of Jenkins tests to entirely in GitHub. GitHub Actions, but it would be nice if there was an emulated test of some sort that we could run against this particular configuration. I'm wondering if we want to. I don't know if you're familiar with the notion of a blueprint in Aether, but define the blueprint where you would change the defaults to the NTN legit defaults, and B, run it against some workload as as an integration test.
Yeah, so the idea is that we will supply sort of blueprints as well, sort of, to show how you configure everything, and probably also updates to Helm charts and everything to make sure.
So what I would encourage you to do is to look at Aether's notion of a blueprint. It's not. It is a very specific, a rather specific thing, as opposed to purely in documentation. It's an executable blueprint.
All right. Yeah. I was thinking about the blueprints on the wiki. So, but this is something else. I will take it.
Well, so I'm trying to think what's on the wiki.
Well, the wiki 18 is the general description of the blueprints, but basically what Larry is referring to is if you use OnRamp, there is multiple YAML files inside the vars directory, and each of those main files, for example, there is one called main-okudu, for example, right? So, and that specific component says, install Kubernetes, or the core network has to have these settings, the Okudu side has to have these settings, and so on. And for example, if you have another blueprint for vSIM, which is simulation, so Okudu has nothing to do there, then it's going to have the core side section there, it's going to have the vSIM section there, and things like that. So that's kind of what Larry is referring
to. All right, yeah, it's clear. Yeah, I've been using multiple of those sort of blueprints.
Yeah,
so yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So it would. I think it would be the best outcome is that we could do an NTN blueprint and document it as one of the, I don't know how many there are now, 18 blueprints, and it gives everyone a very clear entry point to exploring that space. And it gives us the confidence that we've got a test that we're running, at least some amount of testing that runs against it.
Yeah, and as mentioned, it's very small changes. So, but still, it's important to understand where the NTN sort of user will need to. So, how they will need to configure.
How can you just give a couple words on how you test it? What workload you put against it?
So what we have been testing is mainly with UE ranSim and the simulated latency.
Got it. All right. So UE ranSim, although it's sort of fallen off the wayside a little bit. I don't know who's using it, so it may have bit rotted a little bit. But UE ranSim is one of the blueprints, and so it should be pretty straightforward to use that as kind of a model for generating a new NTN blueprint and then fix it in whatever ways makes sense.
So one note there, Larry. So because of the work of the IMS, I think Suresh has been a very big user of UE ranSim lastly.
Recently? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. That's cool.
And from that perspective, we were thinking that, it probably kind of like containerize it. It's going to be quicker, best to make things faster and simpler. And at some point, I was talking to Andy, I think last week, to see if he has some kind of like a spare time to help us on this kind of containerization of UE ranSim, so to make things kind of easier. Same thing as we kind of deploy the other runs that we have there to kind of run some tests. Yeah,
and actually, we have made some changes to UE ranSim to add this RAT type, radio access type. And I don't think that the Aether project has UE ranSim repo, or did I miss that?
No, okay, no, that part, we basically relied on the official UE Ransim repository, which is, it is, as far as I know, it is deprecated. At least a couple of years ago, 1 year, 2 years ago, I saw a notice from the developer saying that basically he's not active or in development of UE Ransim, was just once in a while accepting 1 or 2 PRs, but it's not anymore his primary development tool. So from that perspective, we use a specific version, which I think it is version 3.7 when we do it from on-ramp. Basically, what on-ramp does, it basically goes to the UE Ransim repository, it clones it, it builds it, and it has the binaries ready to deploy. And the idea of containerizing it is to avoid having to go to get the clone the repository and build it, because the building process, it takes quite some time. So if we already have the binaries built, because we don't need to build them every single time, because at least from the usage perspective, create one container image, the same thing that we do for OAI or for SRS Run or for Okudu. Basically deployed as a Docker container to make things quicker and avoid this kind of, again, building the whole thing from scratch.
All right, so maybe we should make a PR against UE Ransim and hope it's accepted sooner or later, because we don't get the full sort of exercise, the full changes if we use the standard UE Ransim.
Correct. Yes. That's understandable. Alternatively, something that we actually also do is for the case of SRS Run and Okudu, we are interested in the smallest footprint for the container image. If I would use the default settings from Docker that SRS Run and now Okudu team kind of suggests, the resulting image would be I think it's 2 to 3 gigs image size, which is kind of huge. So what we did is basically we modified the Docker file. We have our own repository just for the Docker files. We modify, and the resulting image, as far as I remember, I think is somewhere between 500 and 700 megs, such that when we need something, the image can get downloaded faster, especially when there is limitations in the internet connection for that machine. So something kind of similar could be done. It depends on the changes that you guys have. So we can build an image that basically has the changes that you guys have. But again, that's something that we can discuss along the way. Probably first thing would be to integrate the NTN related stuff, and then we can go for the container, the UE Ransim side that could be done on that side.
Yeah, so sounds good. Yeah.
So, not to dismiss the usage accounting contribution, but it sounds like we have, or you have a pretty clear path forward on incorporating the NTN work. We could kind of leave that as an intermediate objective and revisit the usage accounting later. But are there other thoughts on that, and what was the basic reaction there?
Yeah, I think it was most involved thought it would be a good contribution to add usage accounting or charging. There was a question, since we're using the free 5GC CHF, which I would try to get it patched with some improvements and fixes through PR, so depending on they get accepted or not. But there was a open issue: if this contribution is accepted, should the CHF be forked or not? I think it's best to keep everything under one umbrella, not having multiple forks, but depends on how the project see it. Yeah.
I would agree with that. I don't know,
And
Badri,
yeah,
did you?
usage accounting is quite large. It covers multiple network functions, and we have added an extra network function as a billing domain where the CHF reports which
Yeah.
the sort of the what's it called, the web console can fetch usage data from. So we also added some stuff to the web console. So it's UPF, SMF, PCF. So
So
SMF is larger changes, UPF is adding URR, and PCF is some smaller changes.
I see Badri is on. I don't know if you had a chance to look into this at all. I'd be interested in hearing any thoughts you have.
Hey Larry.
Hey.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it, but probably we can have him because I mean, at least from the URR side, I was earlier looking into it, but I can have a look at it and um,
Yeah, actually, that's something that we kind of talked last meeting, and probably Badri would be a kind of good person to kind of give us some additional information because at least in the UPF itself, there is a branch that's something related to the URR.
mhm.
But I didn't. The branch was already there when I joined the team, so I don't have that much context on that side, what it wasn't completed or things like that. So I don't know if you have some context on that side.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we did start URR, it was again, I mean, to do this usage accounting and figure out how we can start measuring, I think, usage on the UPF. But that time, I think we had more control on the P4 side of it. So, and that's why we integrated it in a way that whatever changes we are doing for URR was going only on the P4 side and not on the best side. So, but now I think I think Best has more, um, I think more functions which we can add to get this information back. And I think that linkage of getting back the information from the um, uh, Best module can be used now because I think recently also I was using Claude to figure out what state it is on, and it was kind of giving me more uh, information that, I mean, how we can extend the existing code towards the current code because that code seems a little old. Um, but now that I think they have already added this code, I think I can just review it and see how. I mean, because it does need to have all the components, like you said, from the SMF and the PCF to actually function fully. Just doing the UPF part might not help only. So, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so the best had everything we needed for adding the URR to the PFCP eFace
Yeah, there was a
component.
measure module which was, I mean, needed on the best side while the data is going. So that was something I didn't realize we already had. It seemed the code was
Yes.
taken. Yes, so that kind of helped to get those in on intervals to get that measurement out. And after that, the rest of the code seems, I mean, based on the specification, we can add that code and then use that measurement module to fetch and fill up the necessary parameters. Um, but yeah, I think the new structure of UPF itself, I've been trying to, I'm trying to review and learn that. There's a lot of changes since I saw it last. But yes, probably yeah, I'll spend some more time and try to. Uh, is
Yeah,
this so?
just
This code is now as a PR on the branch,
the NTN related stuff or
or the whole
the
usage
the
accounting.
oh,
No,
okay.
nothing
No.
is as a PR. We wanted to hear your thoughts about this before we spend work on cleaning up to make a PR,
Yeah,
because
I
it
mean,
will be some
usage
work.
accounting, I feel, I mean, it's useful anyways, but I mean, NTN is also a very interesting domain to go into with, because I mean, how that affects, I mean, so the NTN part is only you're adding the part where you're able to calculate usage based on that scenario of when you're using an NTN, or because I've seen a lot of other handover situations and different things on NTN that I've heard, but so yeah, that I'm not sure, but the usage part, I'm sure it's going to be very useful.
So I
Being
think these are almost completely separable. Of course, there will
yes.
be
Yeah,
some
yeah.
use. There will be some usage notion in NTN, but sort of that's in the noise compared to the big issue
Correct.
here.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it sounds like in principle this would be a welcome contribution.
Yes, definitely.
Um, we can proceed in parallel with the two. We're maybe a little closer on the NTN side and should move. Love to see a PR there, and the stuff that goes with it to turn it into a blueprint, and then in parallel, Badri starts taking. I don't know what you would give him access to, but maybe it would be the full PR. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we will prepare a PR over time here, so absolutely. And I can also mention that the CHF from Free5DC, it has one 3GPP API. It's what's it called, CHF commode charging, and this API has been around since release 15 or maybe even earlier. But the version supported by the Free5DC CHF is only on release 17 and 18. So it would, before doing any sort of accepting any pull requests or anything, we would need the release 18 upgrade to be completed.
Oh, okay. I probably have to, read up on the CHF part. I don't know. Do we have CHF currently in our setup, or do we?
No,
No, right?
no, the somewhere in the wiki or wherever in the project, it's strictly saying that because this is for private networks, we won't support charging or usage accounting.
Hmm.
But from our side, we will use it for, it will be private networks on satellite, but in a commercial setting. So it's a bit different compared to how it's with terrestrial networks.
Just kind of one comment about the release of upgrade. That's something that I mentioned also last meeting. My goal is to try to kind of finish all the stuff that I have pending right now, which is like 2, 3 things, and then jump back to the release 18 and try to kind of finish that. So far, I have been doing kind of end-to-end testing, but I think I'm running into an issue with the AUSF that the users are not getting properly authenticated. So I'm trying to finish this task and get back to that, so such that we can have this release upgrade available soon. Yeah, it's already taking me some time. One side note, I was kind of quick, since we discussed about the UE Run Sim, I was kind of on the UE Run Sim website. It seems like the developer is active again on the user. So before he used to have a note on the README file saying that he's no longer active, but that note got removed. So I suspect that as long as you can add a PR, highly likely he's gonna accept the PR.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
As I've seen the old note as well with not being active, but it's good to hear this changing.
Yeah, I just checked that, and it seems like he changed the like a few months ago that, so the no longer active, it's gone now. So
Perfect. Yeah, so I'll ask the developer to get going with that.
mhm.
All right. Well, it sounds like we have some next steps to take. All good. So thank you for bringing this to us and your willingness to see it integrated. Looking forward to seeing it happen.
Yeah, so we will prepare PRs. It will probably go fairly quickly for the NTN part and take some more time for the usage accounting, mainly because I've been doing quite a lot of that and I'm really busy with other things at the moment. So, but we will, make it complete PRs in the sort of fairly near future.
All right, let me just note. Positive response to both, proceeded in parallel. All right. Is there anything else on this or any other topic? All right. Thank you, everyone, and we'll meet again in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Oh, sorry,
Thank you.
Larry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who?
This is Ojung. Sorry for late.
Yeah.
My last meeting was running really late. So
No. Okay. So, got room for a little update here on SD-RAN, or did you have anything to say?
So about the SD-RAN part, I would like to report something. So there are two things we are doing right now for SD-RAN. The first one is the engineering team from the early this year. SD-RAN engineering team is started looking into the SRS-RAN. The OCUDU, let's say OCUDU. We are trying to start testing the OCUDU with the gRPC that the engineering team has right now. We are opening the 5G cell with, and then we are trying to connect their 5G phone with that. So that test is ongoing. And while they are doing that, the other part for SD-RAN is about changing the SD-RAN project structure. So basically, we are actually using the micro-ONOS way. So every the subsystems like ONOS, E2T, ONOS, ONOS CLI, ONOS Topo, everything is defined in the separate Git repository. But I would like to change it to the monorepo way so that we can easily manage them and then release them. So I am doing it right now. And while I'm doing that, I'm bumping up all the Go versions and resolving some dependable issues right now. So it's ongoing. It should be a huge project. I already created a repository for this. So I will keep you posted once I have a progress.
So I want to make this sounds important. I want to make sure I understand it. So I know you've been using micro-ONOS, but
correct.
But it's been viewed as an external project. You are bringing it into considered part of SD-RAN so that you can maintain it?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. I can't spell.
I bet no one is using micro-ONOS feature.
Well, that's not entirely true. So although it's a bit fallen by the wayside, AMP still uses it on.
Oh, okay.
So I don't see that being a problem because AMP has been hanging on a dependency there that no one can maintain in it. So so will be maintained as part of SD-RAN. Okay, great. That's great to hear. And you sounds like you think it's a pretty straightforward thing to do.
Yes, I think so. But the problem is, the micro-ONOS, all the services, most of the services are very behind from the current environment. The Go version is very old and all other dependencies are very old. So I would like to make it up to date so that we can resolve some security issues.
Yeah. So I would guess that in the process, you will not bring 100% of micro ONOS over. You will bring over the pieces you need.
Yeah, correct.
I don't, yeah, I'll just call them microservices. I'm not sure if they're all microservices.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about it. And well, side note is, well, we are writing up some research paper with the SDRAN to for some I forgot the name for journal IEEE journal right now. So once it is submitted and accepted, I will post it to our Ether homepage.
Good.
John,
Mhm.
just one comment regarding SRS Run itself, kind of as a repository is deprecated already.
Yeah,
So just in case,
yeah, we are
okay.
using
So
GitLabs. Yes.
yeah, in case that you want to, you can, preferable just go for the Okudu because basically that's kind of like the newer version of the same
Mhm.
SRS Run.
Oh, okay.
So my suggestion will just go for Okudu. That we already have a blueprint for Okudu and an
Oh,
image
okay.
and everything, instead of using the SRS Run, which is already a deprecated repository.
Yeah, let me check with engineering team. But actually, Hyunmin will is actually using that part, but I will double check.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Woo-John, for the micro owners, are you leaving the existing repos in situ and updating them, or are you forking or moving or something?
So I'm not pretty much sure for that yet. I just copy and paste everything to the single repo, but we can discuss it offline or sometime later. How we can archive things, or we can leave it and then make a sync or something like that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's all about it from SDRAM.
Thanks for bringing us up to date on that. This is important and good stuff. Anything else? All right. Well, thanks everyone, and see you again in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.